Self-respect is not something that is given to you by the world, and it is not a gift that falls into your hands without effort. It is a discipline, a practice, and a way of being that is cultivated from within. It is the foundation upon which all other aspects of life are built. Without self-respect, no achievement can feel fulfilling, no relationship can feel balanced, and no journey of growth can truly begin. To place self-respect first is to recognize that how you see yourself shapes how the world responds to you. The energy you radiate outward is directly linked to the dignity you hold within. When you respect yourself, you stop begging for validation from others. You stop lowering your standards simply to fit into places that were never meant for you. Self-respect acts as a filter, sifting out what is not aligned with your values. It allows you to step away from what diminishes you and move toward what strengthens you. Without it, you end up tolerating disrespect, manipulation, and mediocrity, all because you have forgotten your own worth. But when self-respect is placed at the front of your decisions, it becomes impossible to keep shrinking yourself just to make others comfortable. The first step towards self-respect is honesty. Honesty with yourself about what you feel, what you desire, and what you deserve. Many people avoid looking in the mirror because it reveals truths they don't want to face. They silence their own voice to avoid conflict. They betray their own boundaries just to be accepted, and they wear masks in order to gain approval. But there is no respect in self-deception. The art of respect begins with the courage to see yourself clearly and accept the reality of your own needs and values. From honesty arises boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to isolate yourself from the world. They are gates that allow what nourishes you to enter and what harms you to leave. Without boundaries, you are open to every kind of influence, every type of demand, and every distraction that pulls you away from your center. People who lack boundaries often find themselves exhausted, resentful, and empty, not because life is cruel, but because they never learn to guard their inner space. To respect yourself is to recognize that your energy is sacred, your time is valuable, and your peace is not negotiable. Placing self-respect first also transforms the way you interact with others. Respecting yourself sets the standard for how others are allowed to treat you. If you constantly tolerate disrespect, the world learns that this is acceptable. But if you hold yourself with dignity, the world adapts to that energy. The way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and the way you make decisions communicates to others how they should approach you. A person who honors themselves does not need to demand respect from others. It is reflected naturally because it begins from within. There is also discipline in self-respect. It is not always comfortable to choose dignity over desire, to walk away from what is familiar but unworthy. Many times it feels easier to stay in unhealthy situations than to stand firm and risk loneliness. But respect requires the strength to delay gratification, to say no when your spirit knows it is wrong, and to wait for what is aligned rather than settle for what is available. This discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It is the shield that prevents you from losing yourself in exchange for temporary comfort. Self-respect is deeply tied to self-talk, the dialogue that happens silently within. When your inner voice is harsh, critical, and unforgiving, you begin to shrink. You start to believe that you are less than what you are. But when you cultivate respect in your inner dialogue, when you choose words of encouragement, strength, and accountability, you plant seeds of growth within your own mind. Every time you remind yourself of your worth, you strengthen the roots of your inner foundation. Self-respect first means guarding the conversation you have with yourself, because that conversation becomes the reality you live. It is also important to remember that self-respect is not arrogance. It is not about looking down on others or inflating your ego. True self-respect is humble. It recognizes the shared humanity in everyone, but it refuses to sacrifice dignity in the process. It does not shout or demand recognition. It is quiet, steady, and unwavering, a flame that burns consistently no matter what storm approaches. When self-respect is present, you do not need to prove your worth, because your actions and presence reflect it without words. Placing self-respect first creates freedom. Freedom from needing approval, freedom from clinging to toxic situations, freedom from self-betrayal. This freedom allows you to grow, to expand, and to explore who you are without being tied down by fear of rejection or judgment. You begin to live authentically, guided by values rather than by external noise. every choice becomes clearer because it is weighed against the measure of dignity. If it does not honor who you are, you simply let it go. Self-respect also attracts alignment. The people, opportunities, and paths that resonate with your inner worth begin to appear when you stop entertaining what undermines you. Life mirrors back to you the energy you emit, and when your energy is rooted in self-respect, it draws circumstances that reinforce your strength. This is why so many breakthroughs only happen after someone finally decides to value themselves enough to stop settling. When the inner standard rises, the outer reality adjusts to meet it. Self-respect first is not just a principle for personal growth, it is survival for the soul. Without it, you drift, you compromise, and you lose the essence of who you are. With it, you become grounded, unshakable, and whole. It is the soil from which every other virtue grows: confidence, peace, discipline, love, and resilience. To place self-respect first is to anchor yourself in truth before you step into the world, to build a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of life without collapsing, to choose yourself not once but every day, in every decision, in every interaction, in every moment you stand before the mirror, seeing not just a reflection, but a being worthy of honor and dignity. There is a difference between living life ruled by passing moods and living life guided by principles. A mood is a wave. It rises, it crashes, it shifts with the smallest change in circumstance. It is shaped by weather, by sleep, by words spoken by others, even by the memory of something long gone. To be moved entirely by moods is to surrender your direction to forces you do not control. Discipline, however, is the compass that allows you to stay the course when the waves of emotion are trying to pull you elsewhere. Discipline is the quiet voice that reminds you of your purpose when mood whispers excuses, reasons, and delays. Consider how often a person says, "I don't feel like it today." That simple sentence has ended countless opportunities. It has kept books unwritten, bodies untrained, ideas unexplored, and dreams unrealized. The mood says, "Not today." Discipline says, "No, it is not that moods are enemies. They are natural, they give color to life, but they are not reliable captains of action." If you let mood be the leader, you will find yourself endlessly starting over, endlessly waiting for the perfect moment, endlessly carried by winds that shift without warning. Discipline does not remove feeling. It simply places action before feeling. The disciplined person still feels the heaviness of fatigue, still hears the voice of doubt, still senses the lure of comfort. But instead of allowing these moods to become rulers, discipline makes them observers. The work is done regardless of how light or heavy the mood feels. This is why discipline is power, because it frees a person from being a prisoner to the constant fluctuations of internal weather. Think of the body as an instrument. If it is only played when inspiration strikes, progress will be slow. The notes will be scattered, the music inconsistent. But if every day the instrument is tuned and played with discipline, then over time mastery develops. The body, the mind, the spirit, they are instruments of life. They cannot be tuned by moods, for moods come and go like shifting winds. They must be tuned by steady practice, by deliberate repetition, by conscious choice that does not ask permission from fleeting emotions. There are those who imagine that motivation is the key. They believe they must always feel inspired before they begin. But the truth is the opposite. Inspiration comes after action, not before it. A disciplined person understands this deeply. They do not wait to feel ready, they begin, and readiness grows along the way. Mood is passive. Discipline is active. Mood waits for conditions to be right. Discipline creates the conditions. It is not difficult to see the difference when you observe the patterns of daily living. One who lives by moods will train only on days of enthusiasm, will study only on days of curiosity, will act only on days of confidence. Their growth is slow and uncertain, like a flame constantly at risk of being blown out by the wind. One who lives by discipline, however, trains even on days of weariness, studies even when the mind resists, acts even when doubt whispers. Their growth compounds. Small efforts repeated daily become unshakable strength. Discipline is not harshness. It is not punishment. It is clarity. It is the recognition that what matters most cannot be left to chance. A farmer does not wait for the mood to plant seeds. The seeds are planted because the season has arrived and the work must be done. Similarly, discipline plants the seeds of action day after day, regardless of emotional weather, knowing that the harvest will come. Moods can deceive. They may tell you the task is too heavy, when in truth the body is capable. They may tell you the time is not right, when in truth the time is now. They may whisper that effort will not matter, when in truth every effort is stored, building quietly within. Discipline does not argue with mood. It simply acts, and by acting, it reshapes the mood itself. There is a strength that comes only from this way of living. When the mind knows it can rely on itself, confidence grows. When the body knows it will be moved regardless of feeling, endurance grows. When the spirit knows it is guided by principle and not by passing impulses, resilience grows. This is the kind of strength that is not shaken by small setbacks, not broken by sudden storms, not discouraged by temporary failures. To live with discipline over mood is to live with freedom. The freedom to choose action instead of waiting. The freedom to create instead of wishing. The freedom to continue even when the mood says stop. Discipline becomes the quiet engine of transformation, the steady fire that burns while moods flicker, brighten, and fade. The daily act of choosing discipline creates a life that is not controlled by emotion but supported by it. Joy becomes deeper because it is not needed as fuel but received as a gift. Sadness becomes lighter because it is not a chain but simply a passing shadow. Fear becomes smaller because action is no longer dictated by it. Discipline, placed above mood, turns every day into an opportunity, regardless of whether the sun shines or the clouds gather. When we speak of harmony, we often imagine music, a symphony where every instrument plays its role with precision, neither too loud nor too quiet. But there exists another type of symphony, one that is not heard but felt, the harmony between mind and body. This harmony is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Without it, life becomes disjointed, restless, and filled with inner conflict. With it, a natural sense of balance arises, and from that balance flows clarity, strength, and peace. The body and the mind are not two separate entities, they are reflections of one another. What we feed the mind is expressed through the body. What the body endures is reflected back in the mind. A tired body often breeds restless thoughts. An agitated mind can weaken the physical form. When we learn to observe this interconnection, we begin to see that the disharmony we feel in life often arises not from external events, but from this inner split. The path of practice is to close this gap, to unify what was never truly separate in the first place. Consider the breath. It is the bridge between mind and body. When the breath is shallow and fast, the heart races, thoughts scatter, and decisions are made impulsively. When the breath is deep, even, and calm, the heart slows, the body relaxes, and the mind becomes clear. It is through this simple yet profound awareness of the breath that harmony begins. By training the breath, one is not only calming the body, but also disciplining the mind. Breath becomes a teacher, always present, always guiding us toward balance if we choose to listen. The body carries memory just as the mind does. Muscles store tension from years of stress. Shoulders hold the weight of worries never spoken. The back bends under burdens not yet released. When we release this tension through movement, stretching, and mindful practices, the mind follows. It learns to let go, and when the mind lets go, the body heals. This cycle continues until harmony becomes the natural state. What is important is not only the exercise of the body or the discipline of the mind, but the realization that both are instruments of the same orchestra. In modern life, the imbalance is clear. The mind is overt with information, opinions, and endless stimulation, while the body is starved of movement, stillness, and proper rest. This creates a deep separation. People live in their heads, consumed by thoughts, while the body is neglected until it cries out through pain or illness. The art of mind-body harmony asks us to reverse this neglect, to listen to the signals of the body, to notice the agitation of the mind, and to bring both into alignment through intentional practice. Silence is essential for this alignment. Silence does not mean the absence of sound, but the stillness that allows us to perceive more deeply. In silence, the chatter of the mind slows, and the sensations of the body become more vivid. One can hear the rhythm of the heartbeat, the flow of the breath, the subtle energy moving within. This awareness is the beginning of harmony. By cultivating inner silence, we allow the mind to become spacious enough to listen to the needs of the body and the body to express itself without suppression. Discipline is also necessary. Without discipline, the mind becomes wild, constantly seeking distractions. Without discipline, the body becomes weak, losing vitality. But discipline must not be mistaken for force. It is not about harshness or punishment, but about consistency, structure, and devotion. waking the body through movement, quieting the mind through meditation, nourishing both with food, rest, and breath. This is discipline in its true form. Discipline builds the bridge that reconnects mind and body. Harmony also comes from awareness of energy. Every thought generates energy. Every movement releases or stores energy. When the mind is filled with negativity, fear, or anger, that energy weighs heavily on the body, creating stiffness, fatigue, and illness. When the body is mistreated through poor habits or neglect, it drains the mind, making it clouded, dull, and restless. But when both are cared for, when the body is strengthened and the mind is purified, energy begins to flow freely. This flow creates vitality, radiance, and resilience that cannot be faked or manufactured. True harmony reveals itself in the small moments of life. The way one walks, eats, or speaks reflects the state of the inner world. A balanced mind produces graceful movements. A healthy body supports clear thinking. When both are aligned, even the simplest actions, drinking tea, sitting quietly, taking a step, become profound expressions of presence. This is not about perfection, but about balance. A mind that supports the body, a body that grounds the mind, together creating a life that is whole. Mind-body harmony is not something to be chased, but something to be cultivated daily. It cannot be achieved through rushing or force, but through consistent practice, patience, and attention. Each breath taken with awareness, each movement performed with presence, each thought observed without judgment, these are the building blocks of harmony. Over time, these small acts accumulate, transforming both body and mind into instruments of clarity and strength. The human journey is not defined by a single destination, nor is it measured by the completion of a single task. It is shaped by the willingness to grow, to change, and to adapt. At the center of this journey lies the principle of continuous learning, a practice that demands humility, persistence, and openness. Continuous learning is not bound by age, profession, or background. It is the act of approaching life with curiosity, of refusing to settle into the comfort of what is already known, and of constantly seeking to refine understanding. When one embraces continuous learning, life itself becomes the teacher, and every moment becomes an opportunity for growth. Learning is often misunderstood as something confined to books, classrooms, or formal education. While these are important, they represent only a fraction of the learning process. Continuous learning reaches far beyond. It is present in every mistake we make, in every challenge we face, and in every interaction we experience. The true learner is one who is able to see beyond the surface of events, one who recognizes that even failure is a form of instruction, and that even silence contains wisdom. To learn continuously is to train the mind to stay alert, to listen, and to adapt. In this way, continuous learning is also closely tied to humility. The moment a person believes they already know enough, growth stops. Knowledge becomes stagnant, and wisdom begins to decay. Humility, on the other hand, allows the individual to approach life with the attitude of a beginner. The beginner does not carry the burden of arrogance. The beginner remains open to discovery. The Shaolin path has always emphasized the importance of the beginner's mind because it is within this openness that true understanding is allowed to take root. Continuous learning thrives when the mind is humble enough to recognize that there is always more to understand. Discomfort also plays a critical role in the process of continuous learning. Growth rarely occurs within the boundaries of ease and familiarity. The muscles of the body grow stronger through resistance, and so too does the mind expand when it encounters challenges. Each obstacle presents a chance to adapt, to reframe, and to acquire new insight. A life without challenge would be a life without development. Continuous learning, therefore, requires the courage to step into situations where one does not have all the answers, where one must struggle, and where one must be willing to make mistakes. Another dimension of continuous learning lies in the discipline of reflection. It is not enough to simply collect experiences. One must also pause and consider their meaning. Reflection allows the individual to extract lessons from the events of daily life. Without reflection, knowledge remains scattered and disconnected, like seeds left unplanted. But through reflection, those seeds begin to grow into wisdom. Continuous learning is not about rushing from one piece of information to another. It is about digesting and integrating what has been encountered, allowing it to shape behavior and perception. Continuous learning is also not limited to the external world. It is just as important to study the self, To understand one's patterns, reactions, and tendencies is to gain mastery over them. Many people look outward for knowledge but neglect the inner world. Yet the inner world holds the key to transformation. Observing how the mind responds to stress, how emotions rise and fall, how habits form and dissolve, this too is learning. Continuous learning means turning inward with honesty, acknowledging both strengths and weaknesses, and using that knowledge to cultivate balance. The pace of the modern world demands continuous learning more than ever. Technologies change, environments shift, and societies evolve at a speed that can overwhelm those who cling to fixed ways of thinking. To remain rigid in such a world is to be broken by its flow. Flexibility and adaptability become necessary, and these qualities are sharpened through the habit of learning. The one who learns continuously does not fear change because they are always adjusting, always expanding, always ready to face new realities. Continuous learning also nurtures resilience. A person who learns continuously is never completely defeated because every setback becomes a new source of instruction. They do not view difficulties as permanent failures but as temporary lessons. This mindset strengthens the will and allows one to move forward with renewed energy. Life's hardships, rather than breaking them, become the forge in which their strength is refined. It must also be remembered that continuous learning is not only for personal benefit. Knowledge that is gained but not shared remains incomplete. When one learns continuously, the natural outcome is the ability to serve others more effectively. Wisdom spreads when it is communicated, when it inspires, and when it uplifts. Thus, the commitment to learning is simultaneously a commitment to contributing. Each lesson learned has the potential to ripple outward, touching lives beyond one's own. Continuous learning is therefore both an individual journey and a collective responsibility. It requires discipline, humility, patience, and courage. It demands that one remain open, even in the face of difficulty, and that one continue to seek wisdom even when the path appears uncertain. To live without continuous learning is to remain asleep in the comfort of repetition, but to live with continuous learning is to awaken fully to the endless possibilities of growth that life offers at every turn. Grace in relationships is not about perfection, nor is it about winning every argument or proving a point. Grace is the quiet force that softens edges where conflict might otherwise arise. It is the willingness to pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking, to look deeper than the surface of words and actions. When grace enters a relationship, it becomes the bridge that connects two souls in the face of misunderstandings, disappointments, and unspoken expectations. Without grace, every flaw becomes magnified, every mistake is counted, and every imperfection feels like a wound that cannot heal. But with grace, there is space for mistakes, space for differences, space for growth. Grace is not weakness. It does not mean ignoring wrongs or burying pain. Rather, it is the inner discipline of not letting anger be the master, of not allowing ego to dominate every interaction. When one moves with grace, even silence can become healing. Instead of throwing fuel on fire, grace allows a cooling wind to blow through tense moments. It transforms the energy of resistance into the energy of understanding. Many relationships crumble not because of lack of love, but because grace was absent. Without grace, love becomes conditional, demanding, and suffocating. With grace, love becomes forgiving, expansive, and patient. The presence of grace is most visible in the small, ordinary exchanges of daily life. When someone forgets, when someone fails, when someone stumbles, it is grace that decides whether we react with criticism or with compassion. Over time, these small moments shape the entire foundation of a relationship. It is not grand gestures that sustain connection, but the steady rhythm of kindness, patience, and acceptance. Grace does not remove responsibility, but it tempers it. Grace says, I see your humanity, I see your imperfection, and I choose not to let this moment define the whole of who you are. To embody grace in relationships requires a deep understanding of self. If the mind is restless, judgmental, and harsh toward itself, it will inevitably project the same energy outward. If one constantly criticizes oneself for mistakes, then naturally one will criticize others as well. Grace begins inside. It is born from inner acceptance, from learning to sit with one's own failures without shame. Only then does one gain the capacity to extend that same softness outward. Many people demand perfection from others while secretly drowning in self-judgment. This cycle creates rigidity, but grace breaks it by introducing gentleness first within, then without. In difficult relationships, grace becomes a practice of balance. It is not giving in to every demand, nor is it holding rigidly to pride. Grace is a fluid strength. It bends without breaking, it holds without suffocating, it listens without needing to dominate. When grace is present, it becomes possible to separate the act from the person. The mistake does not erase the essence of the human being. The failure does not define the entirety of the relationship. Grace provides perspective, the ability to see beyond the immediate wound and understand the longer journey. Consider how many conflicts arise from words spoken in anger. The words cannot be unsaid, yet grace can determine whether those words leave scars or become lessons. A harsh reaction only deepens the wound, but grace allows for a pause, a recognition that perhaps the words came from pain, from stress, from misunderstanding. This recognition does not justify harmful behavior, but it shifts the response. Instead of retaliation, there is inquiry. Instead of escalation, there is space. Grace de-escalates without humiliating. It heals without controlling. It protects without hardening. Grace also teaches patience in timing. Not every issue needs to be solved immediately. Sometimes silence is the most graceful response, not because one avoids the truth, but because one waits until clarity replaces raw emotion. A graceful relationship is one where timing, tone, and intention are carefully considered. The truth can be spoken, but spoken with gentleness, without sharpness, without the need to wound. When truth is delivered with grace, it becomes constructive rather than destructive. It helps growth instead of planting resentment. Relationships without grace feel heavy. Every mistake piles up like stones carried in silence. Over time, the weight becomes unbearable. But relationships with grace flow like water. The stones are acknowledged, but they are not clung to. They are allowed to sink and dissolve. Grace makes space for laughter even after tears, for joy even after pain. It does not erase struggle, but ensures that struggle does not consume the entire bond. At its essence, grace in relationships is a commitment to honor the humanity in another while also honoring one's own. It is the art of holding strength and softness at the same time. It requires humility, because to extend grace is to admit that one is also in need of it. Everyone fails, everyone disappoints, everyone falls short. To give grace is to acknowledge this shared truth of being human. And in that acknowledgement, relationships transform from arenas of competition into spaces of collaboration. Grace is not loud. It does not demand recognition. It often goes unnoticed because it is woven into the background of gestures, silences, and tones of voice. But its impact is immense. Grace is the reason some relationships endure storms that would break others. It is the quiet strength that allows love to survive imperfection, the silent shield that prevents small conflicts from becoming irreparable divisions. Grace is not rare, it is a choice, a daily practice, a way of showing up in every interaction with presence, humility, and patience. When we speak about vision and purpose, we are not talking about something external that you must chase. We are speaking about an inner clarity that shapes every decision, every step, and every expression of your life. Vision is the ability to see beyond the surface, to perceive a possibility that has not yet materialized in the physical world. Purpose is the energy that gives life to this vision, the fuel that sustains you even when the path becomes heavy, even when obstacles rise before you. Without vision, life feels like a wandering journey carried by the winds of circumstance. Without purpose, even the clearest vision lacks the force to come alive. Together, vision and purpose are the compass and the fire. One shows you the direction, the other gives you the power to move toward it. Vision is not created by the eyes, but by the mind that dares to imagine. It is the power of thought that lifts you from what is to what could be. A person without vision lives in repetition. Each day mirrors the last, and progress feels like a slow erosion of time. But when vision is present, it transforms the ordinary into possibility. A walk becomes a step towards something greater. A challenge becomes a test, not of your worth, but of your readiness to walk further into what you have seen. The stronger your vision, the more resilient you become to distractions. Vision is a shield against confusion, a light when darkness surrounds. Yet vision alone is not enough. A person may dream of climbing mountains, but never take the first step. Purpose is what calls you into action. Purpose is not found in words, it is revealed through living. It is what makes sacrifice meaningful, what transforms hardship into growth. When purpose is alive within you, failure is no longer something to fear. It becomes a teacher, a mirror reflecting where strength is lacking, where clarity must sharpen. Purpose breathes life into vision and gives direction to effort. The relationship between vision and purpose is like the relationship between the sky and the earth. The sky gives you something vast to aim toward, limitless and boundless, while the earth grounds you with the discipline to keep walking. Vision is infinite, but purpose is practical. Vision shows you the mountain peak, while purpose moves your feet step by step along the path. Many fall into despair because they confuse the two. They try to live with vision only, floating in dreams without roots. Others live with purpose only, working endlessly without knowing why they work, and exhaustion consumes them. The art of life is to hold both together. To cultivate vision, one must learn to quiet the noise of the world. The constant stream of distractions and influences blurs the clarity of inner sight. Silence becomes the soil where vision grows. In stillness, you begin to notice what resonates with your deepest self. You start to see a direction not handed down by society, not copied from another person, but arising from within you. True vision is personal. It does not compare, it does not compete. It is the recognition of your unique path, the road only you can walk. To cultivate purpose, one must learn discipline. Purpose is not a fleeting feeling, it is not excitement that fades. Purpose is sustained by daily actions, by commitment even when motivation disappears. Discipline aligns energy with intention. Each action, no matter how small, becomes an expression of purpose. This is why some people radiate a strength that cannot be explained by words. They live aligned with what drives them, and that alignment gives them presence. Purpose is not about having everything figured out. It is about choosing again and again to walk in the direction your vision points toward. When vision and purpose unite, life begins to shift. Energy once wasted on doubt, hesitation, and comparison transforms into focused momentum. You stop scattering your strength on what does not matter. You begin to recognize what serves your path and what pulls you away. This awareness makes decisions simpler. You are no longer torn between countless options because you know what aligns and what does not. This clarity does not come from outside. It emerges as vision and purpose strengthen within. Many people search for purpose as if it is hidden in a distant land waiting to be discovered. They travel, they consume, they endlessly chase. But purpose is not found, it is lived. It is revealed through the consistency of walking your vision, through the act of aligning daily life with deeper meaning. Purpose grows when you give yourself to something greater than comfort, greater than temporary pleasure. Purpose grows when you choose growth over ease, contribution over selfishness, discipline over indulgence. There is also an energy that radiates from people who live with vision and purpose. It is an energy that does not demand attention, yet it cannot be ignored. Others feel it in their presence because it is rare to witness someone who knows where they are going and why they are moving. This energy is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It is the quiet confidence of alignment, the steady strength of someone whose inner compass is unshaken by storms. The absence of vision and purpose, on the other hand, creates a void. Without them, life becomes a series of reactions, a constant drifting without direction. The weight of uncertainty presses down, and even small obstacles feel heavy. This is why cultivating vision and purpose is not a luxury, it is essential. It gives you meaning beyond survival. It gives you strength beyond circumstance. It allows you to carry burdens with dignity because you know why you carry them. Vision and purpose demand patience. They are not discovered in a single moment. They are revealed in stages, deepening as you grow. The vision you hold today may expand tomorrow. The purpose that drives you now may evolve into something greater. Both require openness, both require the willingness to step into the unknown, and both require you to trust that even when you cannot see the entire path, each step is shaping you into someone who can walk it.